Yes, I think I completely agree with you. And this is really critical. I think that there is no way for us to go ahead and to take pluralism seriously and religion seriously if we don't focus on education. Now, it's going to be very difficult with the way we deal with education to integrate within our official state schools or private schools something which has to do with better knowledge about history and better knowledge about religions. But this is what we need to do. If we are serious about pluralism, if we can't do it officially, we need to have institutions, we need to have organizations doing the job, because we can't live together based on mutual ignorance. Mutual ignorance means fear, mean rejection, mean fragmentation between the people. The only way we are talking about mutual respect is that the difference between tolerance, that's not tolerance, sometimes is patronizing, it's a position of authority, that you are tolerant because you suffer the presence of the other in a position of authority. Respect is not this. You cannot respect if you ignore. If you ignore me, you don't respect me. But you can tolerate me by ignoring me and say, okay, stay where you are. I tolerate, I suffer your presence. I think we have to go further than that. It's beyond this. True pluralism is not only to live together, is to work together. And there is a double process. There is an educational process by getting knowledge, and there is an educational process by mixing with others. And in the book called The Quest for Meaning, I'm saying that we have to reconcile our kids, our students, our teenagers with four disciplines. The first one has to do with history. The second has to do with philosophy. We need to reconcile ourselves with the question why. Why are we doing what we are doing? Why science? Why, computer? Why do we want to be so efficient? To make money or to be dignified human being? We have to come to these essential questions. We can't avoid this. We also deal with the knowledge of religions. And it's not catechism that I'm talking about. I'm talking about knowing the religion. If What are the principles? What are the main teachings in all the religion in order to understand with whom you are living? If you are an atheist, if you are an agnostic, a Christian, a Jew, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Hindu, at least you need to have basic knowledge. It's impossible to have pluralistic society when we are ignorant of ourselves and ignorant of the other. And there is a fourth discipline which is very important. And I know that I'm surprising the people when I'm talking about this, but this is essential. It has to do with arts and culture and imagination, creativity. We need to reconcile ourselves not only with scientific efficiency, but openness and creativity and imagination. It's the history of arts, history of thoughts, history of culture and imagination and creativity. This is missing in our schools now. Who's going to do that? I think that some in schools could do it, and we need to have this awareness that schools are not something that we have to let to the teachers and to the state to decide. We are parents. We are to be also involved in the curriculum. We have to be involved in the discussion. And then we also have grassroots institutions who have to do the job, who have to provide people during the weekend, after school. And some of the Muslim institutions are doing this, not enough, and Christians are doing this with the institution. But we have to bring the people together. So this is in the side of education. But there is another way to educate people, which I was involved in this. I was a teacher in secondary school, and I was bringing my students, and I was asking them, please, and we wrote three books. One was on the elder people within the society. And we wrote a book about the memory of the elder people, poor elder people in the society. We wrote a book about the young students who are failing in school and try to understand why, what are the, and we wrote a book. So in fact, it's connecting the people within our society, which is important, and to work together. So instead of only thinking that you get the knowledge, theoretical knowledge, and we change things, we have to mix the young people. They have to know each other. They have to live together. And then through this is something which is changing mentality and helping us to do the work at the grassroots level and within the society. It's a long process. We have to have some priorities, but we have to do this. And this is our responsibility. We cannot sit down on the chairs and blame the state. This is also a civil business. It's a citizen's business just to be involved in dialogue and working together. Thank you so much for this very spiritual question. And you will see in what I will try to translate here and to explain how much we have common teachings and common understanding from the Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Islamic tradition. In fact, monotheism, and not only, many things are important when it comes, for example, to this spiritual journey with the Buddhist tradition, even without God, but we are talking about our relationship with God. And in fact, the second question is the means for the first question. How am I going to do, and what am I supposed to do in enter in God's peace? First, there's three things that are important. The first, of course, as a believer, to acknowledge the fact that God is, that there is one God. So the very essence of Islam is based on what we call Tawheed, the notion that there is no God but God, so the oneness of God. When you acknowledge the fact that there is one God, what is expected from the believer is in this relationship with God is to listen to his call and to know oneself. And to know oneself, it's a position of principle which is based on my responsibility with my spiritual consciousness is to know myself, which again, you can see here that this is echoing Socrates and what he was saying when he was saying, know yourself. All the religions are starting with know yourself. So if you want to get inner peace, intimate peace, you need to know yourself and you have to, with your consciousness, to know what are, in fact, the dark side of your being and what are the enlightened side, because you are attracted both by truth and by corruption or by desire or by instinct. So you need to deal with how am I dealing with my ego? What am I dealing and how am I dealing with my desires, my instincts? We have to check this because some of us in this room are naturally generous and others are selfish. We do not have the same challenges in life. We are not the same. So know yourself. Know what are and assume and acknowledge the fact that there are things in you that are playing against yourself. For example, the alienation of the ego. The ego is this I, this attraction towards power, towards money, this way of being attracted by fame and the look within the society. That's very essential. In the mystical tradition, this is the awareness of al-muraqaba, which is self-evaluation. That's very important. And we should not pretend to be good people. We should just assume who we are and know who we are. And what we have to do to enter in God's peace, it's this ongoing education using our qualities, our generosity, our consciousness, our willing to serve humanity, to master the dark side. So it's a process of mastering, controlling the self. Once the Prophet, peace be upon him, was saying to the people, who is the strong? Who has strength among you? And the companion said, oh, the one who is beating his enemy. He said, no. The strong among you is the one who masters his emotions. Don't let your emotions take over. You have to master yourself, which is in contemporary language is what we call emotional intelligence. Is to have this control of the intelligence. All the mystical tradition, and it's true in Judaism, it's true in Christianity, and it's true in Islam. If you want to enter in God's peace, make peace with yourself. How are you going to make peace with yourself? Know yourself. Know the dark side. Know your instincts. Know your ego. Know your desire and control them for the better. So it's an educational process. And you know what is this educational process? This is jihad. In fact, in order to enter into God's peace, we need what we call jihad in nafs, which is an ongoing effort and resistance to the dark side of the self in order to reform the self for the better. So we need the answer to the second question to answer your first question. So, in fact, in order to enter in God's peace, needs jihad. So, this is why in the book I'm explaining that jihad is not the way towards war, it's the way towards peace. In order to get this peace of heart, peace of being, peace of the self, in order to enter in God's peace. So, it's quite demanding. And in fact, this is why in Islam you will never get the spiritual freedom if you are not disciplined. And it's very paradoxical in our society because the people think that freedom is do whatever you want. We don't need discipline to be free because discipline is the opposite of freedom. The spiritual teachings in the Christian tradition, the Jewish tradition, and the Islamic tradition are the same. There is no freedom without discipline. You have to be disciplined with the self, to control the self in order to be really free, not to be subjugated, but to be free with your intellect and with your heart. So this is a long spiritual process. And when I'm talking like this, I know that when I'm talking to Christians, when I'm talking to Jews, they know exactly what I'm talking about because this is something that we are sharing together. We know exactly what is the spiritual journey and what does it mean. I hope so, at least. Thank you. Most welcome. Look, I have been involved in interfaith dialogue and dialogue for almost 30 years. And in a book that I wrote called Western Muslims and the Future Islam, which is a book that is translated into Dutch, by the way. I have 5 books translated in Dutch so far. And in this book, I'm responding to your question. I'm saying we need to keep on the dialogue. We need to talk to one another. And for me, the interfaith dialogue is not only Christians and Jews and Muslims. Today, we have to integrate even people who are now part of our society, Buddhists, Hindus, and even atheists and agnostics, because they have values and they are thinking about, some have ethical concerns about, environment, about education. They should be part of the discussion. So we need this kind of dialogue, and that's very essential. Now, the problem that we have is that very often the people are coming together, they know each other, they end up being small groups, talking to one another, and they, after 1 year, 2 years, they know each other and they don't need even the dialogue, but they keep talking to one another in closed doors. The problem that we have is not us, it's not these people who are coming together. The problem is, how do you reach out? How do you reach out to the society at the local level? So, for example, today I'm here, I'm talking to you because Alexander organized this, and I can talk to you. We can widen the scope. But what we need to do at the local level is to have people from different backgrounds and religions coming together and trying to do something together and to talk, to reach out to the local society. So I'm saying that our societies are going to change when we will be able to have something which is a national movement of local initiatives. National movement of local initiatives. People coming together at the local level, knowing each other, not only around the table to talk, but within the streets, outside, reaching out to the society to do something together, to be visible. Because if we are not doing it, the people are going to end up watching TV and thinking that it's all about clashes, it's all about one against the other. Now, what we see in our life is not, it's not true. We can do things together, and we have to do things together. For example, when it comes to education, when it comes to solidarity, when it comes to environmental concerns, all these topics are so important, and we have to work together, not being divided, and understanding that we are sharing principles. We are sharing so many principles that it's a shame, and it's a lack of understanding, and it's irresponsible not to work together when, for example, the people of Daesh, the people of ISIL, what they want is to let us think that we cannot live together, that we are not going to live together, that Islam is not a European religion, and that the Europeans don't like the Muslims. I think that we have to work against this. So it's the reaction of the people in Manchester was great by saying, let us come together. And our answer, we are not going to accept fracture within our society. But it should not be done only as an emotional reaction after a terrorist attack. It should be a philosophy of life. It should be an ongoing process. Day in, day out, we have to do that. I spent my time dealing with people of other faiths, working, traveling, doing things. I went, I took even my students, 15 countries in the global south. We went to India, we went to African countries, we went to Brazil, we went to Mexico, to try to come together and to do things together. So this was an international thing, but we should do it at the local level. We should do it in Amsterdam. We should do it in Rotterdam. We should do it in every single city and town where the people are coming together. This is an educational process, and it's very important. Stop talking, start working, and walk the talk, and not only talk. That's also something which is important. We have, yeah, yeah, we have the same problem in the Islamic tradition, where you have to say everything is determined. Determinism is part of it, and the great majority of the scholars and the philosophers are saying no, there is freedom. In fact, ontologically speaking, essentially speaking, there are two things that are distinctive when it comes to defining human beings. In fact, there is a saying in the Quran saying, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, we gave dignity to human beings. By definition and by essence, uh, human beings, all the human beings, believers or not, are in fact dignified. What are the characteristics of their dignity? Two things. The first is that knowledge. They can get knowledge. We have this in the Quran that God taught the names of everything to human beings. And the second thing is their freedom. And they have the choice. The one who wants let him believe, and the one who wants, let him not believe. We are free to believe and not. So we have the freedom to decide. Now, it's true that politically, when it comes to God, God knows everything. He knows the past, He knows the present, and He knows the future. So, how is it that He knows everything and that I'm asked to deal with myself as a free being? And that's a very important thing is that in Islam, there is a clear distinction between the divine and what we don't know about what God knows. So the knowledge of God is beyond our knowledge, and what we don't know, our ignorance of His knowledge, it's bringing us our freedom. Because I don't know what He knows, and I should behave in the light of what I know, in the light of what are elements in my understanding and in my knowledge. And it's based on this that I have to make decisions. So we are free and we are responsible. And we have to take ethical decisions based on what we know is right and what we know is wrong. And as human beings, we have to be assume our freedom. We are obliged to deal with it, and no one will bear the burden of somebody else. لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى means one day you will come back to God as a human being, as an individual, and you will be unable to say, it's because of my father, it's because of my mother, it's because of my son or my daughter. No, you are responsible, you have to decide, and you are free to do so. Now, it's exactly the same when it comes to religion. And very often we had a saying of Muslim, or some Muslim scholars think that it's impossible, for example, to change your religion. It would mean that you are free to do whatever you want, but you are not free to change your religion. And in fact, even if you come back to the scriptural sources and if you come back to the Prophet life, he never killed or he never take action against he never took action against somebody who changed his or her religion. Because at that time, people entering into the community, taking information and going back to the enemy. It was in time of war, betrayers that were doing this. But it has nothing to do here with changing religion. If you are not convinced, if it's your choice, you have to be respected in whatever decision you take. And this is the true meaning of freedom. So these are the controversial questions. uh, yes, of course, within the society, marriage it's something which is essential and it's already happening. There is, as to the understanding of Islam, there is an understanding that yes, it's possible for a man to marry a Jew or a Christian, but a Muslim woman should marry a Muslim. And you have this is the mainstream position that we have among the scholars because of the whole philosophy of the family that there is a duty for the man as a Muslim to look after the family. And if you have a man who is a non-Muslim, the duty is not going to be the same. It's not going to be a duty for him while it's a duty for a man when it comes to a Muslim woman. So there is something which is essential in the way the Muslim man should think about the family. The woman has the right not to work if she doesn't want, and the man has the duty, whatever is the decision of the woman, to look after the family and to assume the family. anything else could be part of a discussion and the dialogue between men and women. But in fact, if a woman is saying, I don't want to work, she has the right to do so. And if she wants to work, once again, it could be something that she imposed onto her husband by saying, I studied, I want to work, and it's part of my conditions when it comes to marriage, and she has the right to do so. So, in fact, there is a philosophy that we have to keep in mind here. The whole philosophy of the Islamic, the family, according to the tradition, doesn't mean that it's not moving. You have today women who first were not interested by religion. They married a non-Muslim or somebody from another religion, and then now they are coming back to religion. And some of the scholars were saying you have to divorce. That's not true. As long as the man is respecting the practice and the fact that the woman have the right to and want to perform her prayers or her fast and everything, there is no obligation to divorce in this situation. As to the marriage, this is also something which is in principle, there is no way of doing this. Now I have seen in very specific situation that the man and the woman are very clear on the freedom of the woman. She wants to practice her religion. She wants to be able to deal with the children also in the way which is consistent and with her religion, and this could be possible. So I would say here that in a very specific situation, it's a case per case. Beyond the fact that the rules are set and the whole picture is this one, then after this, it's a case per case way of dealing with the issue because you can't come with a legal framework when it comes to specific couples and a specific relationship. But there is something which is essential. It's the complete respect for the practice of the man and the woman, whatever their religion is. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And good luck. And if there is anything that I can do, I will in the future. Take care. Thank you. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.